Catholic Charities of San Francisco believes in strengthening families, reducing poverty, helping the young to develop, helping the old to age with dignity, assisting the hungry, the homeless, and the ill, welcoming refugees and immigrants, and making this a better, safer, stronger community. Today we are talking with the Chief Executive Officer of Catholic Charities, Jilma Meneses. From her we will find out what are today's challenges, where is our community hurting, and how can we be of service to it. To learn about Catholic Charities' work in our Archdiocese, to find out how we can help in its effort, please rejoin us after this brief break to meet Jilma Meneses of Catholic Charities. Hello, I want to introduce our guest today. She is Jilma Meneses. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Catholic Charities of San Francisco. Now, do I have the name right? Catholic Charities of San Francisco. Yes, you do. And it's connected with the Archdiocese of San Francisco, and it serves the 3 counties that the Archdiocese covers, if I'm correct: San Francisco, San Mateo, and Marin County. So it's a big charitable organization, and you're the fairly new CEO of this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your career and this job?
Thank you. And it is a comprehensive agency for sure. I was raised in the Bay Area in San Francisco, came to the United States as a child, like many other immigrants who we serve today. Yeah. And raised here, went to school here, and eventually went to the Northwest to do my law school degree in the Portland area, where I made a career in an executive leadership and law. And then now I am here.
I read some of this. You worked in higher education in a legal capacity. Did you teach as well?
Very limited, but I did serve as the dean of the law school for Concordia University, Portland, and their law school is in Boise, Idaho.
And I believe I read that you're a graduate of UC Berkeley for your undergrad.
That is correct.
Also
I went to UC Berkeley, very much a local in that regard, and I still have family in the Bay Area, brother, mother, and others.
Wonderful. So wonderful. So you're the Chief Executive Officer of Catholic Charities in the Archdiocese of San Francisco. I looked at this very copious website to see what kinds of things you have, and I see 5 identified service areas, and maybe you want to tell us a bit about those.
Certainly. We serve the homeless in various ways. We serve aging adults and disabled adults. We serve refugee and immigrant individuals, as well as children. In the homelessness area, we serve an immense amount of beautiful, beautiful human beings who need shelter, who need love, and who need protection from what is happening on the streets. We have many homeless mothers and babies who are part of our STAR community, and as well as other centers that we have. In our aging and support services, we have older adults who come to our centers to be among friends and to feel nurtured and companionship. They are just amazing, amazing people who just need to be with community and who need to be cared for instead of being at home lonely or without food or safe surroundings. The children that we serve throughout our various programs in the Bay Area, they are children who perhaps don't have the same opportunity as the more privileged in our society, who perhaps don't have the beginnings of a great education or the opportunity to access excellent education. So they come to us for that access. We provide them with academic nurturing as well as food security and health security at the various sites that we have. And then, of course, we have residential programs.
Now, explain this to me. That's housing for the homeless.
The residential programs that we have are specifically for children who have been traumatized in one way or another, and perhaps the court systems in the various jurisdictions will place them with us at one of our sites.
I see.
Yes. And we also, as I mentioned, have a a large population of homelessness homeless individuals who we serve. That's probably among the largest of the programs. But the refugee and immigrant services is very in high demand right now. We serve over 4,000 people in a given year.
Sure.
Immigrants who truly are in need, whether they're DACA recipients or folks who need legal services in other ways. And particularly right now with the tremendous division, these populations are in great need of our support and our assistance.
Yeah, from time to time in the socioeconomic picture, the most vulnerable populations seem to change. After an influenza epidemic in 1918, it's orphan children and stuff. But today, yes, immigrants, homeless people, there's large populations of such people in San Francisco in this area and need tending.
That's exactly right. What I say is that we actually serve the whole stream of ages, from 0 to 101. We have one aging adult who's literally 101 years old, and she has been coming to one of our centers for about 20 years. We celebrate her life, and we celebrate her and the contributions that she makes to the other elders in our community. But she also celebrates us for giving her the companionship that she so deserves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I see that. And to carry out these tasks, these complex tasks, you must have a cadre of paid employees, but you also have, I think, a large cohort of skilled professional volunteers of various kinds in various professional occupations. Yeah?
Absolutely. We have over 4,000 4,000 volunteers.
4,000 volunteers.
Exactly. And close to 600 employees, who I call angels, by the way, constantly.
Yeah.
Because these are people who give so much of themselves on a daily basis,
Yeah.
some of whom have been working for us for over 30 years,
Yeah.
some less, of course, but who truly give more than what a job description normally suggests.
Yeah.
And our volunteers, the same.
Yeah.
True angels in our community who value the sense of service to those around them, their neighbors and their brothers and sisters.
That's wonderful. Now, let me ask a quick question. Maybe we'll settle it in the next segment. But how do the people who need Catholic Charities find Catholic Charities? How do you announce that we're here and we're available and here's what we have? How does that work? Is it called marketing, or was it called public relations?
I think it's called all of that, plus voices and spreading the word. Again, we've been here 110 years, but more than ever, it's very important that people know that we are here, either through their parishes, and by the way, we serve Catholics and non-Catholics.
That has to be said clearly. Sure, your services are for Catholics.
And
non-Catholics, pardon me, and your staff is Catholics and non-Catholics.
Correct. We serve everyone of all faiths, and some of our employees are not Catholic. Sure. They're of all faiths.
Of course.
And different ethnic and racial identities.
Yeah.
as well as sexual orientation identities.
Okay, that's very good to know. We'll take a brief break now, and we'll come back and talk further with Jilma Meneses about Catholic Charities today. Welcome back. We're talking with Jilma Meneses, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Catholic Charities in the Archdiocese of San Francisco. Jilma, thanks again for being here. You know, in the recent disasters that you've seen, the floods down south and the fires in California, when you look to see where you can make a donation, where you can help, and so on, among the prime candidates for giving your donation that comes up is Catholic Charities in these areas. And Catholic Charities, my impression of Catholic Charities in all areas in this country is that they are sort of prime, sterling, veteran, proven purveyors of charity and good works. Is that correct? Do you have, how do I put it, good standing in the philanthropic community?
Absolutely, and in the social services or human services community,
Yeah.
exactly. We are accredited, just recently received expedited accreditation by the Council of Accreditation, suggesting that we are a national model for human services throughout our 3 counties for sure. We have provided, as I mentioned, lots of services for children and homeless and aging adults, etc., and refugees. But we also provide services to populations that you may not think are vulnerable, but are vulnerable.
Well, for instance, yes. Tell us about that, because if you're a model for this kind of work, there'd be some innovation involved on your part, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, the innovation comes with empowerment of children, and it starts with the empowerment of children. And our CYO camp, which populates during the summer and during the school year, welcomes children of all socioeconomic classes and communities throughout the Bay Area, providing them with enrichment programs and development programs at our camp. They come from Catholic schools and public schools throughout the region. Again, not necessarily just underserved populations, but also of different socioeconomic classes. And the children are vulnerable regardless of where they come from.
I
They
see,
come
yeah.
to us for strength and empowerment as a child, as a human being.
Yeah, and I've read some statistics about that, how many thousands of children take part, how many thousands of hours they do in a year of recreational activities, sports activity, learning, and all kinds of enriching things.
Right. Our CYO Athletics, which also is an athletic program serving about 13,000 children throughout the region, is an example of that.
CYO stands for Catholic Youth Organization.
Exactly.
Right? I grew up in the East Bay, and I was in CYO in the 1950s. Sure. Yeah.
Right. And
Very good organization. So you're considered a model because you hit the right notes as a charitable organization, low overhead, good disbursement of...
Very low overhead. Yeah. We operate in a very thin margin. We do receive some government contracts, but those government contracts are not normally sufficient to cover all of our expenses.
Sure.
Absolutely. And then we have some private donations. But what I'm seeking, though, in the next 5 years for sure, and certainly in the short run, is more partnerships from corporations and business. And given the big divide between wealth and poor, I think that the fact that one might drive the other, we think that we are all accountable and hope that businesses and corporations take some of that accountability.
Yeah, it is, and I want to hear more about this. Do you have like a 5-year plan, strategic plan in this regard? We
are currently reproducing our most current strategic plan, absolutely, and that is a very big part of it, the opportunity to partner with businesses and help them become more accountable.
Yeah, I'm not an economist or a sociologist, and so I have the vaguest appreciation of our condition, but it seems that there's a huge bundle of wealth and success in this Bay Area, right where Archdiocese is. Lots of corporations are doing very well, lots of people doing very well, but many people not doing well and descending, and the middle class in a very fragile position. That's my understanding of things. Does that jibe with what Catholic Charities sees?
That's exactly right. The corporate responsibility is more important than ever because that wealth, particularly from large business, is driving the middle class to the poor part of our spectrum. We have an increasing amount of poverty, and the poverty that I'm talking about are not just the homeless that you see on the street, but they are teachers and librarians and others who traditionally were middle class and now are being driven to being in a lower.
And you know, I mean, I see newspaper stories, the highest median home price in the country in this area, lowest population of minor children in San Francisco, of the 100 most populous cities. So a strange situation. And you feel that Catholic Charities could appeal to the people that have the money and the people that, how do I put it, that understand what an investment in the community might be, and you can tell them what kind of return on their investment they would get, strengthening the community.
Absolutely. Just like a taxpayer pays taxes, I believe that a voluntary corporate responsibility, social responsibility is essential. Corporations can take part in this investment in our community because it does affect them, and eventually it might affect some of their own employees and own families.
Yeah.
If our community is not thriving in the way it should be because the poor are getting poorer.
Yes.
And I believe that corporations can invest, take ownership in some of our programs, and not just giving financially, but perhaps investing in the structure or the organizational structures of these human services programs with their creative, with their ideas, with their own resources, whether it's marketing or volunteering.
They should be able to. These companies that are great successes here are innovative, creative, and great marketers.
That's exactly right.
I would listen to you if I owned one of those companies. We'll take a brief break, and we'll be back in a minute to talk more about Catholic Charities in the Archdiocese. Welcome back to Mosaic. We're talking with Jilma Meneses about Catholic Charities today. And Jilma, you've just told us about a plan, a vision of engaging Bay Area corporations, businesses, entrepreneurs, and so on in this Catholic Charities. So, they have talent, they have creativity, they have innovative skills. I'm sure they could be of help. I'm not a businessman myself, but I went to your website and I looked at, there were massive amounts of good information on the return on investment that Catholic Charities has, the impacts of your programs. It seems that you spend a good deal of time and expertise studying the impacts of your programs, assessing what works and figuring out what doesn't work. It was quite impressive, these things that you do.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. We do have a tremendous amount of return on those investments. I'll give you examples.
Sure.
When a mother is homeless and comes to one of our shelters, delivers her baby, the last thing you want is to put her back on the street with a baby, right? And the investment, or the return on the investment, is that we empower that woman by providing her with the resources, perhaps the access to training and workforce that she otherwise would not have. At the same time, nurturing the child so the child has a good beginning, the baby has a good beginning. If the whole family is taken care of in that way, with health and food security and shelter and education, and including workforce development, then that person can empower, again, herself to be self-sustainable. That is an investment in our future and in the future of our community, not just an investment in that child or in that mother.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the typical attitude, I think, of a charitable-minded person is, well, I'll give a big donation and someone will take care of it. But it sounds like you're talking about understanding that I have a relationship. I'm not in a vulnerable position at the moment myself, thank goodness, but I have a relationship with the people that are vulnerable, something I have to reconfigure in my own mind, perhaps.
It is something that we all have to reconfigure. We can all be vulnerable at some point in our lives, no matter how rich or how poor. And therefore, we need to have empathy for those around us who perhaps are very vulnerable today, including the CEOs of major corporations will someday age, will someday be lonely. And the more empathy that they have today for those who are in need or calling out for their assistance in some way, the better they will be as well in their future, and their children will be.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, let me quote to you something that I saw in a newspaper article where you said that as the CEO of Catholic Charities, you want to rebrand Catholic Charities and persuade people that they're joining a cause, they're not just helping others. And let me quote this to you. We have to demonstrate that an investment in Catholic Charities is not just for the poor or vulnerable person, but for themselves, their children, and the community as well. That's your statement. It's very good.
That is exactly right, and that's an example of what I would hope others would understand. It is a cause. It's a cause that we must all hold very tight and perform on. Again, regardless of where we are in our personal socioeconomic status or position in careers, It is a cause to help those who have less than us or who are more vulnerable. We need to unite as a community, and that's part of the cause. The divisions that exist today or currently are too extreme and are bringing us farther apart and causing those harms constantly. So
The divisions are political, I think. The main ones I see that are on the front page every day, political divisions. Is that right?
I would suggest that they're more than political divisions, and perhaps some of the political divisions are causing the division on a daily basis for everyone, right? The division includes not wanting to help folks because of their color or because of where they were born or possibly because of where they are sleeping today, when in turn we should be uniting with those individuals and having the empathy that is required of all of us as human beings to bring them along with us.
I agree with you, and I think you're just about quoting Jesus Christ himself when he says, do this and this and this for the least of your brethren, and they are your brethren.
That's correct.
And if you didn't do it for them, you didn't do it for me.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. If you didn't do it for them, you didn't do it for me.
But you've said that you want to persuade the broader community, not just Catholics and Christians, but also the business community and others, to take part in this effort.
That is correct. They have to take part in this effort and join this cause, again, so that they do it for all. And it will affect them personally when they do something right for another human being, and they will affect from a business perspective, the community's economic stability when there aren't as many vulnerable populations living on the street, for example. It affects business. It affects a coffee shop if a homeless person is sleeping right outside their door.
Yeah. The health of our community. And the cure is not to shift that homeless person somewhere else,
right,
but to empower that homeless person to do the best that he or she can.
And exactly, just like you're empowering the mother with the baby so that she can work in that coffee shop instead of having to sleep outside.
Yeah, it's very true. We see dramatic representations of the ill health of our community out on the street every day. So we have about 1 minute left. Let me ask you to give our viewers some action items. What can they do?
They can join our cause and reach out to us, find a way to partner with us to help or assist these communities that are vulnerable, and some that are less vulnerable than others, yes, but all of the communities that we support. And again, that's ages 0 to over 100, right? Because someday it will affect them personally if it isn't affecting them now, and it probably is true that it is affecting them. They don't even realize it as much.
Thank you for opening our eyes. Thank you for visiting with us. It's been very nice talking to you. We welcome Jilma Meneses to Mosaic, and we thank her for being here. Thank you for watching.